I have always been fascinated by haunted houses. Ever since I was a kid, I loved reading stories and watching movies about them. I wanted to experience the thrill of being scared by something supernatural. That's why I decided to visit 100 haunted houses in 1 year and document my experiences on my blog. I visited all kinds of places: old mansions, abandoned hospitals, creepy hotels, even a haunted forest. Most of them were disappointing. Nothing happened except for some creaky noises and fake props. I was starting to lose hope of finding a real haunted house, but then I heard about a place that was supposed to be the most haunted house in the country. It was located in a remote village and had a dark history of murders, suicides, and occult rituals. The locals avoided it and said that anyone who entered it never came out alive. I was intrigued. I had to see it for myself. I booked a flight to the nearest airport and rented a car to drive to the village. It was a long and bumpy ride, and I arrived at night. The village was quiet and dark, except for a few dim lights. I asked around for directions to the haunted house, but no one wanted to talk to me. They looked at me with fear and pity and told me to leave while I could. I ignored them and finally found someone who agreed to show me the way for a hefty fee. He drove me to the edge of the village and pointed to a dirt road that led to the hills. He said that the haunted house was at the end of that road, but he refused to go any further. He warned me not to go inside and said that he would wait for me until dawn. If I didn't come back by then, he would leave without me. I thanked him and got out of the car. I grabbed my backpack, which contained a flashlight, a camera, a voice recorder, and some snacks and water. I also had a knife, just in case. I started walking along the dirt road, feeling a mix of excitement and nervousness. The night was cold and silent, and the moon was hidden behind the clouds. I felt like I was the only person in the world. After about an hour of walking, I saw the haunted house. It was a large 2-story building with a pointed roof and a porch. It looked old and decrepit, with peeling paint and broken windows. It was surrounded by a rusty fence and a sign that read, "Keep out." I climbed over the fence and approached the house. I felt a chill run down my spine, as if something was watching me. I reached the front door and tried to open it. It was locked. I looked for another way in and found a window that was slightly ajar. I pushed it open and climbed inside. I landed on a dusty floor and turned on my flashlight. I was in a living room filled with furniture covered with sheets. There was a fireplace, a piano, and a staircase. There were also cobwebs, dust, and mold everywhere. It smelled like death. I took out my camera and started taking pictures. I also turned on my voice recorder and narrated what I saw. I wanted to capture everything and share it with my readers. I was sure that this was the house that I had been looking for. The house that would prove that ghosts were real. I explored the ground floor and found a kitchen, a dining room, a library, and a bathroom. They were all in the same state of decay and neglect as the living room. I didn't find anything unusual, except for some old books, newspapers, and photos. They showed the previous owners of the house, a wealthy family that had lived there in the 19th century. They looked happy and normal, but I knew that they had a dark secret. They were involved in a cult that worshipped Satan and performed human sacrifices in the basement. That's what the locals had told me anyway. I decided to check out the basement and see if I could find any evidence of the cult. I found a door that led to the basement and opened it. A blast of cold air hit me and I shivered. I pointed my flashlight down the stairs and saw a dark and damp space. I heard a dripping sound and smelled something rotten. I felt a surge of fear, but I pushed it aside. I had to see what was down there. I walked down the stairs and entered the basement. It was a large room with a dirt floor and stone walls. There were shelves, tables, and cabinets filled with jars, bottles, and boxes. There were also tools, weapons, and bones. But what caught my eye was a large pentagram painted in red on the floor. In the center of the pentagram, there was a wooden altar stained with blood. On the altar, there was a human skull with a candle on top of it. I gasped and took a step back. I had found it. The proof that I had been looking for. This was the place where the cult had performed their rituals and killed their victims. This was the source of the haunting. I felt a mix of horror and fascination and took out my camera. I snapped a few pictures and then moved closer to the altar. I wanted to see the skull more clearly. I reached the altar and looked at the skull. It was small and cracked and had some hair and flesh still attached to it. It looked like it belonged to a child. I felt a pang of pity and wondered who it was. How did they die? What did they suffer? I leaned in and touched the skull with my hand. That was a mistake. As soon as I touched the skull, I heard a loud scream. It was not my scream. It was the scream of a child in pain and terror. It was the scream of the skull. It echoed in my ears and in my mind. I felt a jolt of pain and dropped the skull. It fell to the floor and rolled away. I stumbled back and covered my ears. I wanted to stop the scream, but it wouldn't stop. It kept screaming and screaming and screaming. I felt like I was going crazy. I looked around and saw that the basement had changed. The pentagram, the altar, and the candles were gone. Instead, there were bodies. Dozens of bodies piled up on the floor. They were all children, mutilated and bloody. They had been sacrificed by the cult. I reached the stairs and started climbing them. But then, I felt something grab my ankle. It was a cold and bony hand. It belonged to one of the bodies. It pulled me down and dragged me into the pile. I felt more hands, grabbing me, holding me, suffocating me. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't move. I couldn't escape. I was trapped. I was doomed. I was about to die. But then, I remembered something. I remembered the knife that I had in my backpack. I had brought it for self-defense in case I encountered any wild animals or hostile people. I had forgotten about it until now. I reached for my backpack and felt the handle of the knife. I grabbed it and pulled it out. I stabbed the hand that was holding my ankle and felt it loosen its grip. I kicked it away and stabbed the other hands that were around me. I fought my way out of the pile and ran to the stairs. I climbed them and reached the door. I opened it and ran out of the basement. I ran out of the house and ran to the car. I got in and told the driver to go. He looked at me and saw the blood and dirt on me. He asked me what happened, but I didn't answer. I just told him to drive as fast as he could. I had escaped. I had survived. I was alive. I had always wanted to spend a night in a haunted house. I thought it would be fun and exciting, and maybe even romantic. That's why I convinced my girlfriend and my family to join me for a weekend getaway at an old mansion that was rumored to be haunted. I had found it online and it looked amazing. It was a huge Gothic-style building with a tower, a balcony, and a garden. It had been built in the 18th century and had a history of mysterious deaths and disappearances. The owner, who lived in another city, had agreed to rent it to us for a very cheap price. He said that he didn't care about the rumors and that he just wanted to make some money from the property. He also said that he would leave the keys in a mailbox and that we could check in and out whenever we wanted. It sounded too good to be true. We arrived at the mansion on a Friday evening after a long drive. We were all tired and hungry, but also curious and excited. We parked our car in front of the gate and walked to the mailbox. I opened it and found the keys. I also found a note that read, "Welcome to the mansion. I hope you enjoy your stay. Just a few things to remember. Don't go to the tower, it's off limits. Don't go to the basement, it's dangerous. Don't go to the attic, it's haunted. Don't go out after midnight, it's not safe. Don't disturb the ghosts, they don't like it. Have fun." I read the note and laughed. I thought it was a joke or a prank. I showed it to my girlfriend and my family, and they also laughed. We didn't take it seriously. We thought it was part of the fun. We took the keys and opened the gate. We walked to the mansion and entered it. We were amazed by what we saw. The mansion was beautiful and well preserved. It had a large hall with a chandelier, a fireplace, and a staircase. It had a living room with a sofa, a TV, and a bookcase. It had a kitchen with a fridge, a stove, and a microwave. It had a dining room with a table, chairs, and a cabinet. It had 4 bedrooms, each with a bed, a closet, and a window. It had 2 bathrooms, each with a shower, a sink, and a toilet. It had everything we needed and more. It was perfect. We chose our rooms and unpacked our bags. We decided to have dinner and then watch a movie. We ordered pizza and ate it in the dining room. We talked and joked and laughed. We were having a great time. We finished our meal and moved to the living room. We turned on the TV and looked for a movie.
Hi guys, thank you so much for watching, and if you like my horror sounds, please make sure to like and subscribe if you want to. See you in the next video. Bye!
We found a horror movie and decided to watch it. We thought it would be fun and scary and appropriate. We sat on the sofa and cuddled. We started the movie and watched it. It was about a group of friends who went to a haunted house and got killed by the ghosts. It was cliché and predictable and cheesy. We didn't care. We enjoyed it anyway. We watched the movie and screamed and laughed. We were having a blast. We finished the movie and checked the time. It was almost midnight. We decided to go to bed and get some rest. We turned off the TV and the lights. We got up and walked to our rooms. We said goodnight to each other and kissed. We entered our rooms and closed the doors. We got into our beds and turned off the lamps. We snuggled and cuddled. We said I love you to each other and kissed. We closed our eyes and fell asleep. We slept peacefully and soundly until we heard the noise. It was a loud and sudden and terrifying noise. It sounded like a scream and a bang and a crash. It came from the attic. It woke us up and startled us. We opened our eyes and looked at each other. We were scared and confused and curious. We wondered what it was and what it meant. We got out of our beds and put on our clothes. We grabbed our phones and our flashlights. We opened our doors and walked to the hall. We met our family, who had also heard the noise. They were also scared and confused and curious. They also wondered what it was and what it meant. They also had their phones and their flashlights. We greeted each other and asked each other if we were okay. We said yes and nodded. We decided to investigate and find out what was going on. We walked to the staircase and climbed it. We reached the 2nd floor and looked for the attic. We found a door that had a sign that read attic. We remembered the note that said, "Don't go to the attic, it's haunted." We ignored it and opened the door. We entered the attic and pointed our flashlights. We saw a dark and dusty space filled with boxes, bags, and furniture. We also saw a window that was broken. We walked to the window and looked outside. We saw a figure that was hanging from a rope. It was a person, a dead person. It was the owner of the mansion. We gasped and screamed and ran. We ran out of the attic and down the stairs. We ran to the hall and to the front door. We tried to open it, but it was locked. We tried to unlock it, but it wouldn't budge. We tried to break it, but it was too strong. We were trapped and doomed and dead. We heard a voice that came from the fireplace. It was a cold and raspy voice. It said, "Welcome to the mansion. I hope you enjoy your stay. You are my guests and my victims. You are my entertainment and my food. You are my toys and my trophies. You are mine and mine alone. You can't go to the tower, it's my lair. You can't go to the basement, it's my dungeon. You can't go to the attic, it's my graveyard. You can't go out after midnight, it's my time. You can't disturb the ghosts, they are my friends. Have fun." We heard a laugh that came from the fireplace. It was a loud and evil laugh. It echoed in our ears and in our minds. We felt a jolt of pain and dropped our phones and our flashlights. We fell to the floor and curled up. We couldn't breathe, we couldn't move, we couldn't escape. We were trapped. We were doomed. We were dead.